Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Netflix. It is time for another update, and since the previous video on this chart we have broken our area of support for direct continuation to higher prices. We have been looking below the $90 level for something much more bearish to be going on, and this isn't necessarily for the long term. Long term I'm still quite bullish on this chart, but at least short to mid-term, we have been looking for a much more substantial correction to occur once we would have broken the $90 level. Since that was the case, we have shifted to a couple of different ideas for continuation to higher prices. Within an extension, in a potential 1-2 setup in this area or something similar, the next area of support would only start at the $60 level. Yeah, we have provided a massive downgrade for this chart since we have broken the levels of support for direct continuation higher in this wave to the upside directly. And if we have an even more substantial top in place, where this would be a series of 1-2 setups to have started with, probably here a large 1-2, 1-2, and a third wave up, a fourth wave correction would have the area of support only start at the $40 level, but it does extend down to the $10 level and it has still plenty of room to complete the correction and continue to higher prices afterwards. Now, in the smaller time frame as well, we are looking for lower prices. The structure is suggesting from pretty much all time frames that we should expect continuation to even lower prices, and as I said, we are looking for the area of support to be reached before we continue to new all-time highs anyway, and the first one only starts at the $60 level, so there is still some room, there is still some downside expected on this chart. But before we move into the smaller time frame and go into all the details, I wanted to briefly mention our channel newsletter, where you get access to our monthly top picks. The link for that is in the description, and you can sign up today. It is completely free. And additionally, if you enjoy the content and you want to support the channel, you can check out the membership, and by joining you get access to a couple of cool perks including additional content. The link for that is in the description as well, or you can click the join button. And today we have just posted our exclusive. It is an analysis on gold. It has been overperforming in the market but underperforming in the channel, and I believe it is an underrated asset by many investors and traders. Now, on this chart, we have been tracking a couple of ideas for continuation to lower prices. Right now, I would prefer not to stick within a strict count. I will even consider a potential 5-wave move that could form to the downside within this area, but that would probably have to be within the idea of a leading diagonal. In the end, I cannot look for a more direct reversal reliably until we reach the area of support and we have only formed a 3-wave pattern into it. Additionally, I would expect to break some relevant levels of resistance before looking for higher prices, because other patterns could technically work out, but I just don't consider them as a high probability, which is why I'm focusing on the large time frame area of support. Now, in this structure, we have been focusing on this blue interpretation where we were tracking a WXY structure. This was making more sense, to be honest, within the idea of an internal wave 4 correction, but since we have gotten these serious extensions to lower prices, once again I am much more inclined to believe that we may be looking at a 5-wave pattern to unfold within this area. Now, this would have to be within a leading diagonal, once again, meaning that we are looking only for an ABC structure to unfold before we would consider this count within the wave 3 to be complete. If we form a 5-wave pattern within this area to the downside, I would have to consider that this would instead have formed an ABC structure, which is not a problem, but I cannot look for a wave 3 to unfold within this area as a 5-wave pattern. The wave 3 would either have to be an ABC structure or an impulse, and based on the structure we have at hand within this initial wave to the downside, I cannot be tracking an impulse within this wave 3. Now, in the case of this structure, I'm definitely not tracking an impulse anyway, because the internal structure, the internal count within this area is highly corrective. I cannot identify a clear impulse to be going on, meaning that the larger wave 3 cannot be an impulse. So, from this time frame perspective, I'm still focused on this idea of an ABC pattern to unfold, and in the previous videos we have been tracking an area of resistance for a wave 4 here and an extension in a 50 to the downside. I would argue now, based on the latest extensions, that this would actually still be part of this wave 3. I consider that we may have actually not bottomed just yet, and that we are still looking at a diagonal pattern, but we are looking at an extension within this wave 3 where I would see even another low very possible and in fact even likely. So in this new extension, I would consider within this wave C that we are tracking part of the wave 3. Yeah, we have here the wave 3 and we are tracking this wave C. This is the area of focus. We are looking at a 5-wave move to the downside to form within an ending diagonal. In this idea, I would expect the third wave to have formed a more substantial bottom and possibly to have even topped within this wave 4. Now I would adjust this to a smaller degree just to make it more visible, more clear. And in this case, we would have an area of resistance still for this wave 4 since we didn't actually extend to new lows at the levels between the $82.7 all the way up to the $88.6. At this point, I would expect once we form the ABC pattern within this fifth wave and form a more substantial bottom to possibly have completed the wave 3, but only within this structure. I would still expect afterwards a larger correction in wave 4 and then another fifth wave before the even larger wave 3 would be potentially complete, yeah? Now, in the previous video, we were tracking exactly this idea of an extension in a 5-wave pattern to the downside within this area, which I believe has followed through very, very nicely. We have pushed into the 61.8% retracement. This didn't manage to extend to the downside as an impulse. And yeah, just for your clarity, we are tracking once again an ending diagonal in a wave C in this area. This, in a wave 1, has formed an ABC pattern. I'm tracking here the wave 2 correction, and in the wave 3, I'm tracking an ABC pattern. I consider this complete. I'm looking for this wave 4 and the fifth wave to the downside. I know I am repeating myself, but I want to make the count and the structure we are tracking as clear as possible because I believe it to be crucial for understanding our expectations within this chart. Now, for the full clarity, we are looking from the larger time frame perspective only for an internal wave 3 within this wave C to complete once we form this additional low. So we would expect, once again, still a fourth and a fifth wave to take us to even lower prices, and even once that is complete, I would be looking still for a wave 4 correction potentially and another fifth wave to the downside. It is not mandatory at this point. We might be looking potentially for an even stronger relief rally, but until I will get the evidence that a more substantial bottom would be in place by breaking the relevant levels of resistance, I would have to continue to look for even lower prices on this chart. At the moment, we would be looking for something slightly more bullish by breaking the $88.6 level, but even in that case, we would still have a couple of additional resistance areas we could track before looking rather for a direct breakout and a correction bottom to be in place. At this point, the count seems very lacking to me. It looks like it needs extensions to lower prices before I could even consider to look for something more bullish. I want to make this as clear as possible because it is important to preserve capital. I don't believe Netflix is a buy right now. I believe we need to be prepared for continuation to lower prices, and I believe we need to be prepared for the opportunity once we actually have a potential structure complete within this area, which I don't believe is the case to come anytime soon. Yeah, even after we form within this structure to the downside, especially if we don't reach the area of support, which once again only starts at the $60 level, I would expect only a correction to occur to the upside and take us likely to even lower prices. But for now, there really isn't much else to add. You have the relevant levels of resistance to watch. You have the area of support, which is still very, very far away. We can identify here within a smaller time frame some divergences. Yeah, even here on the 4-hour time frame, we can see that this has likely formed an internal wave 3 to the downside. We have had a wave 4 correction, and this is likely a fifth wave, but this count seems incomplete. This fifth wave seems very likely to form right now. Yeah, today we have had quite some severe extensions in this pattern. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.